Hi, it's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video I'm going to give you some reasons why you should and why you shouldn't buy the Logitech MK220 wireless keyboard and mouse set. Let's get straight into it. So first of all, let's go over some of the included accessories and what you get and what you can expect to pay for this thing. So we'll start off with price. Now, price-wise, this fluctuates a lot, as do pretty much all Logitech products at some time or other. They generally go to roughly about 50% of their normal retail pricing, and this particular set is no different. This normally retails for somewhere in the region of about £30 to £35. Currently on Amazon.co.uk, I managed to pick this up for £16.99 with Prime free shipping. So pretty good value for money if you take into consideration what else is available on the market for very similar prices. A lot of the kind of Chinese unbranded or off-branded equipment you can pick up for very similar prices with very similar specifications. But with this, obviously you do get the Logitech branding, the support, and also the warranty. So that is something to be taken into consideration. Now, I'm not entirely sure where the naming scheme comes from for this. So this is the MK220 wireless keyboard set, which comprises of the M150 wireless mouse and also the K220 keyboard. So I guess if you mix and match those letters around, you kind of get the idea. So this is actually designed as a compact form factor keyboard. So for those of you who don't have a great deal of room on your desk and you want to save as much room as possible, but you still want to have a full-size keyboard with an additional number pad, then this is possibly one of the better options. And also being wireless, you don't have to worry about wires and all those kinds of things as well. It does come with a wireless dongle, which unfortunately for the listing actually on Amazon, it does say it's a unifying receiver, of which it definitely isn't. Now, the easy way to find out if Logitech products are of the unifying range, which means you can associate them and program them for different dongles, etc., is to look for the unifying mark, which is normally a little orange mark, which I'll show you on the screen right now. So as you can see, the wireless dongle doesn't have that at all. And actually, one of the things which is one of the negatives about this set is the fact that the wireless dongle, although it is 2.4 gigahertz, so works on wireless, no Bluetooth unfortunately, this is basically part of the set. So if you lose this, then basically the rest of it is e-waste, which is never a good thing. And I would love to see Logitech taking a more proactive approach when it comes to waste and e-waste by making all of their keyboards and mice and dongles of the unifying variety. I think that would save a lot of people a lot of hassle. Something else which is a little bit of a negative of the dongle is the fact it's massive. And I'm definitely going to imagine that there are going to be people that are going to plug this into a laptop or a PC, especially if it's on the front panels or side panel. They're going to knock it and either damage the receiver or possibly damage the USB ports. I'd have loved to have seen this being the nano type receiver, which we're used to seeing on a lot of other Logitech products. Next up, we'll take a look at the mouse. So the mouse is actually quite a nice feeling mouse. This is a little bit on the hefty side. Now, it isn't when you don't have batteries in it, but unfortunately, this does actually require two AA batteries, which does add a considerable weight to it. With the batteries included, we're looking at a total of 109 grams, which in terms of mice these days is actually quite heavy. Also, for some people, you may find that the mouse is actually slightly rear heavy. So there's a lot of weight in this rear section. So it does feel slightly off balanced, and if you try and hold it, it literally wants to fall down to the bottom. So there is a lot of weight in that rear section. But in terms of ergonomics, it's actually a very comfortable mouse to use. It is ambidextrous, so suitable for left or right handers. And also they have added some other ergonomic features, such as the left and the right mouse button do have a slight indentation or curve, so your fingers can rest quite nicely on them and they don't want to slip off the sides, which is quite nice. The actual top as well, in this kind of satin matte black finish, and it has a little bit of grip to it, not overly so, but it's much better than being completely shiny and slippery. It does feel quite nice in the hand and is very well spaced, I think, for pretty much most types of grips. There is also a mouse wheel in the middle, so you can use that for scrolling should you wish to, and also a center mouse button, which is a little bit on the clicky side, a little bit harsh, as you can possibly hear. The actual buttons for the mouse itself, the left and right, are actually quite nice and quite crisp. I'll give you an example of what they sound like now. You definitely get that sort of plasticky twang to the key presses, but I think it's absolutely fine, and in use it works very well. I would love to be able to tell you what the DPI of this mouse is, but they don't list it actually in any of their specifications. If I had to compare it with one of my other mice, I would say it's somewhere around the possibly 1600 DPI, something along those lines. When it comes to tracking sensitivity, inches per second, honestly, I have no idea whatsoever. But in terms of actual use and using it for spreadsheets, editing, even gaming to some extent, it's absolutely fine and tracks very well, even though it is a relatively inexpensive wireless kit. Looking at some of the downsides of this particular mouse is the fact there isn't actually a physical on-off switch on the mouse at all. So that is possibly a pro, but potentially a con as well. So if you do leave it in a backpack or something, any accidental presses on the actual buttons will turn the device on and off, depleting the battery. So you do have to be a little bit careful of that. But on the flip side, if you're one of those people which you like the convenience of having wireless peripherals, you leave it on your desk and you basically go away, have your dinner or go shopping or whatever you do, you can go to sleep, don't worry, because it will shut down and all it takes is a little bit of movement or a mouse click to wake it back up. I should mention as well, depending on your region, the batteries are included. In our particular region, we managed to get some GP batteries, but you may find you get Duracells or something else. Obviously, you do get batteries included, but the brand may differ. Going back to the batteries, if you remove the bottom plate, which is relatively easy to do, and you can see where the batteries are. Another downside of this potentially is if you are traveling with this, maybe you're going to and from work environments or you're a student going from class to class. Unfortunately, there is nowhere to actually store the wireless dongle. And again, being that it is actually quite big, is somewhat of a problem and potentially could get damaged in transit. Would have been really nice to have, again, a nano dongle which could have fitted inside there relatively easily. Next, we'll take a look at the keyboard. Now, the keyboard itself, as you can see, is slightly smaller, so it is a more condensed size. You do still have all of the regular keys that you do expect, and you do have function keys across the top from F1 to F12. Those also double up, so if you press the function button, you can also use them as media controls. Although unfortunately there aren't any specific separate media control buttons, as they would have added more height to the keyboard or more bulk to it, which is unfortunate. For me personally, I think I would prefer to have separate media buttons which are constantly available should you want to adjust your volume, mute, etc, etc. The keyboard itself is actually quite a nice layout, and it's actually quite slimline, very flat as well, so depending on what angle you're on. It does feel very much like a premium laptop keyboard rather than being a premium desktop keyboard due to the layout. The keys are nicely spaced, especially if you've got somewhat larger fingers. So yeah, it feels really nice. It is a membrane keyboard, not a mechanical one, so you do have that membrane feel to it, which does add a little bit of extra safety. So it is a spill-proof design. It isn't waterproof, so don't take it swimming, but if you accidentally spill your tea, coffee, etc. on it, it's pretty much going to be okay. As I said, it does have a full-size number pad there, which is always nice to see, although unfortunately some of the buttons at the top here, so your print, screen, etc., have actually been condensed into the other three there for home, end, and page up, page down. So those do duplicate. Again, press the function key, which is over on this side, and you can toggle between the various keys what they do. There is a numlock key, but unfortunately, due to, again, the power saving nature of these devices, there are no LEDs on this whatsoever in terms of power, low battery, caps lock, number lock, etc. You can get some software from Logitech, the Logitech options software, but you don't necessarily have to. If you do install that, it will give you a visual representation on your screen of the status of your number lock, caps lock, etc. Something of the keyboard which for me personally I'm not very keen on, and if you're a gamer and potentially left-handed, you may also find this slightly bit of a deal breaker for some. So that is the arrow keys over here on the right hand side. As you can see, because this is a condensed form factor, the up and down arrows are very, very close together and basically take up the space of what would normally be pretty much one key, just slightly bigger. I have found myself trying to play games on this, such as CSGO, and I've quite often tried to press the up arrow and accidentally press shift. So again, a little bit of muscle memory. If you're not gaming and you're not using your arrow keys a great deal, then I think this is going to be absolutely fine. But for those of you that are maybe using spreadsheets, or you're using your arrow keys for gaming, then I think you potentially might want to look elsewhere. When it comes to actually installing the batteries, it's actually very simple to do. There is a side panel here which says Logitech, and this cover slides off. Just push it down or pull down and you can remove this, and this reveals the two AAA batteries. Again, we've got GP batteries in here which were included in the kit. They weren't installed already. I did have to install them, but it's very simple and straightforward to do. When it comes to the actual battery life, now it's actually pretty decent, as it says here on the box, which I'll just refer to. So for the actual mouse, you're looking at up to 12 months of usage on the standard batteries. The keyboard up to 24 months. Now, obviously I haven't had it this long, so it's very difficult to me to say yes, that is accurate or not. Having used previous Logitech products, generally their lifespans in terms of batteries are pretty accurate. Again, your usage is going to greatly differ depending on how you use it. If you're using it for gaming and you're having one of the ASDW keys constantly pressed down for movement, etc., then that is potentially going to make the batteries go down a little bit quicker. If you're just using it in normal circumstances, emails, internet, that kind of stuff, then I can see it easily lasting as long as they say. When it comes to the actual ergonomics of the keyboard itself, so it is a very flat design, although you can raise it up by 8 degrees. There are legs on the back which flip up. Unfortunately, these don't have any rubberized padding on them, and actually there is no rubberized padding on the back of the keyboard whatsoever. So if you're someone who possibly moves your keyboard around a little bit, you may find this sliding around. There are a few rubber pads on the bottom, at the front there, so there are 4, so it will keep it kind of relatively in place, but there is a little bit of movement, so do be wary of that. You probably will find if you put the legs up, because that's pushing down more so on the front on those rubbers, it will hold it in place. If you do raise it up like this, the unfortunate thing is because this is entirely plastic, there is an awful lot of flex to it and it creaks and grinds. Obviously, you're not supposed to do this, but if you are traveling, if you're putting this into your rucksack, your travel bag, etc., then there's a chance that it's going to get moved around, which may make it have a slightly lesser lifespan due to damage, but it's a relatively cheap keyboard, so it's probably not the end of the world, but just wanted to point it out. And in terms of flex as well, when you're typing, if you're slightly heavier handed, you may find that the deck flex is a little bit too much, and as you can see, just a little bit of pressure here on the top, and the whole thing just bends. So it does give you a nice kind of mushy feeling, so if you do like that, then you may prefer this rather than a stiffer keyboard, but for me, I think it is a little bit too much give for my personal liking. When it comes to the keyboard, it sounds nice. All the keys are as you'd expect them to be. I did find that the caps lock key has a little bit of a different tone than the rest and seems a little bit looser. There's definitely a little bit of wiggle. You can hear there. So yeah, that can be a little bit annoying, but it's the caps lock key. You're not going to be using it a great deal, I would imagine. But I just wanted to point out. But overall, I think it's actually a really nice setup, and if you're looking at spending less than £20 on a wireless keyboard and mouse for maybe occasional use, emergency use, or maybe for if you've got like a media center PC and you're sitting a little bit further away from where your computer is, you do have a range of up to 10 meters on the wireless dongle. Now, I haven't tested this. Generally, I think if you're 10 meters away from your screen, then there's a chance you're probably not going to be able to see what you're typing anyway. But in normal use case scenario, when you're just at a desk, if your computer's maybe to the side or something, you shouldn't have any issues with stability of the wireless signal at all. That is something which Logitech are actually pretty good at. So that is an overview of what this is all about. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is unfortunately Logitech's own MK295 set and also the MK270, both of which we've reviewed previously on the channel, so we will put links to those in the video description. For me personally, I think the MK295 is a slightly better system. It's a full-size keyboard. You also have the switch to be able to turn the mouse and the keyboard on or off. And also, it just feels nicer to use in my personal opinion. That is going to be down to the individual. The MK270, which is slightly older now, very similar design. The only thing really between the two is the MK295 has a soft touch keyboard. I generally tend to use that a lot when we're doing our live streams because it's not annoying when I'm typing or using the keyboard. So potentially if you want a quieter keyboard, maybe you're someone who works in an office late at night or at home late at night, maybe you're adjacent to a bedroom and you don't want to be heard typing away, then I think the MK295 might be the better choice. Although, as I said earlier, it does depend on the price because Logitech products generally do fluctuate quite significantly. And if you look at amazon.co.uk, as of today, You can find the MK295 setup for around about £33, but it has been as low as £22, which then puts it very much in a similar price point to what this is currently. The MK270, again, very similar, anything between £20 to £40, depending where you're looking and when. So lots of choice there from Logitech. If you do want a more compact design and size is the premium thing which you're looking at, I think this makes an excellent choice. But for me personally, if you're looking for an all-rounder which you can use for gaming, typing, and has those extra on-off buttons, I think personally the MK270 or the MK295 are much better options. But what I think about it isn't important, what you think about it is. So let me know in the comments section, have you used this keyboard? Have you used either of the other ones, the MK270 or the MK295? Which is your personal favourite? I'll be very interested to hear. So I think that's going to wrap things up. I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.